are newer and better UV filters, why do we not have access to them here in the United States of America? Good question. Let's discuss. Hi, I'm Sean, Melanoma Mom here. I am a melanoma skin cancer survivor, and one of the leading causes of melanoma and skin cancers is UV exposure. And one of the ways to prevent UV exposure or to reduce it is through sunscreens. Here in the United States, you mostly see a variety of chemical sunscreens as well as physical UV filters like zinc oxide and titanium dioxide. Now, I am not a medical professional at all. Like I said, I'm just a melanoma skin cancer survivor. And I'm learning right along with you about all of this stuff. And that has been one of my questions, is why do I see different SPF filters in sunscreens from the UK, from Australia, from Korea? And why are the sunscreens UV filters so limited here in the United States? It seems odd to me. Well, there's an answer. Thankfully, one of you sent me an article discussing this exact question written by Amanda Mole called "You're Not Allowed to Have the Best Sunscreens in the World." I will put a link to it in the description box of this video. Please feel free to add into the conversation in the comment section of this video. I want to hear from you all. This is an important question. We need answers. The author of this article, Amanda, she starts out discussing how her relationship with sunscreen was practically non-existent as a child. She's 36 writing the article. I'm 42. I can definitely remember when sunscreen was not considered that big of a deal. Let me know if you can relate. Basically, my mother was in charge of the sunscreen. There were 3 of us kids, and I frequently remember her saying, use as the smallest amount possible because your brother and sister also need to put on sunscreen. And then the bottle that she would hand us would be a couple years old, and she would pride herself in how long she got that bottle of sunscreen to last. So now, that to say, I do not blame my mother for her lack of sunscreen education, because it just wasn't a thing. Our generation, our parents' generation, were not educated on sun exposure and how to safely protect us. I mean, when we were out in the pool and my mother started noticing that we were getting a sunburn, she would tell us to put on a white t-shirt that would then get wet in the water. So that white t-shirt that probably had an SPF of a UPF of 4, when it got wet, probably went down to a 1 or didn't do anything. But that was how it was back then. When my mom was raising us, she was putting baby oil. She and her sisters thought that tanning was healthy and that the baby oil would help them get a tan. And I grew up thinking that a sunburn was also healthy. I grew up hearing, hey, you would look healthier if you just had a little sun on you. Let me know if you can relate to any of that. The article goes on to talk about how in the US, sunscreen is regulated as an over-the-counter drug, which means that the FDA considers all filters, physical or chemical, to be active ingredients that must be evaluated and approved individually before they can be marketed, which I had never thought about this before. Before having this channel, I had never considered sunscreen as a medication that needed to be regulated. I thought it was just skincare. Was very ignorant about sunscreen. The article goes on to say the government currently allows 17 filters in American sunscreens, 9 of which are rarely used because they have undesirable side effects or because cosmetic chemists find them difficult to blend into the kinds of products that people like. So the 8 filters that are left, that are approved, that are FDA approved, there are some challenges to using them to create a product that people still like. And I've noticed this with zinc oxide. The higher percentage of the zinc oxide, the pastier and the greater the white cast is. Have you noticed that too? And that turns me off from wearing sunscreen. I know before I had melanoma skin cancer, I avoided mineral sunscreens like the plague because I assumed they were all thick, white, and pasty. Another turn off is the color, right? The color of the sunscreen. The tinted sunscreens are either too light for darker skin tones or they're too dark for lighter skin tones like mine. And so they really only work for like a middle ground, the majority of them, the ones that are made here in the United States. I get particularly frustrated that sunscreens don't come in a shade range like foundations. I feel like that would be so much better. There are a few that have more than the one option, but there's not many of those. The article says in Europe, Australia, and much of Asia, sunscreens are regulated as cosmetics or health bolstering goods with simpler efficacy and safety standards than those in the US. In those markets, several dozen active ingredients are available for use in sunscreens, including some developed in the past decade that have intriguing properties. And if you've noticed, most of the sunscreens, the only way we can get them is through third-party sellers on Amazon or YesStyle. We can get Asian sunscreens through YesStyle, if you're familiar with that app. But it's very difficult and the price point is marked up a lot of times when you try to buy through Amazon. Now, I have been thrilled that one of my favorite sunscreens, the Misha Soft Finish, Misha, the brand, I think it's Korean, has its own US website now where you can buy directly off the website and you don't have to go through Amazon if you don't want to. So the article goes in depth about how difficult it is to mix the filters that the FDA has approved and can either cause too much oiliness or too much chalkiness, or the ingredients just don't mesh well. And to be honest with you, it's a hope. I'm not an ingredients person. I'm not a chemist. So I don't really understand everything that I'm reading. So if that interests you, go read the article that I'll link below. The article says that the FDA has not added a new active ingredient to its sunscreen monograph, the document that details what is legally allowed in products marketed in the US in decades, because the process for doing this is too difficult and takes too long. In 2014, Congress passed a law attempting to spread access to sunscreen ingredients that have been in wide use in other countries for years, but it hasn't really worked. And there was another article that I reported on. It was the Consumer Reports. I did a video on that one talking about how the process, you know, the FDA just wants so much testing on SPF filters that are already approved in the UK. Interesting, right? What do you think about all of this? Should we in the United States of America have access to more SPF filters? Would you like that? Do you find yourself using more sunscreens that are produced in Korea or the UK or Australia, or are you fine? Do the ones that are made here in the States, do they work well for you? I find it intriguing that there could be SPF filters that do a better job of preventing cancer that we don't have access to. And I do personally, I look forward to seeing more SPF filters approved so that maybe more people will wear sunscreen, right? It's no fun to wear sunscreen that doesn't feel good on your skin. And that's one of the reasons I started this channel, is because I didn't know. I was just using just a few sunscreens. And like I said, anytime I tested out a mineral sunscreen, I was like, ew, this is gross. It's too thick and pasty. I don't want to use it. It didn't matter. The efficacy of it didn't matter to me. The protection level didn't matter to me because I knew I wasn't going to wear something that felt gross on my skin. Let me know your thoughts below. See you in my next video. Bye. Thanks, Paul, for sending over this article to my email. Much appreciated.